going to do things a little differently when I tell this story time. I'm going to do the story time and I'm going to break it up and put it on TikTok. But I'm going to put this video unedited, and there may be shit that makes it into TikTok or that doesn't make it into TikTok, because sometimes I end up at part 38 and I'm like, ugh, I'm leaving out the last 10 minutes. So it might behoove you to watch this video over on my YouTube channel if you don't want to watch it in parts, because I know people do complain. But people had specifically requested this story time, and I've actually filmed it twice. I filmed it on my phone, and then my phone died, and I had to get a new one. So I couldn't get to the videos of it. And it is the story of how I got the dent in my forehead, or in my, like in the top of my head. And you can sort of see it. It's very hard to explain, but it's right here. It's this whole area here, and my finger dips down. It's straight dip. It's about the size of half of a golf ball. If you took a golf ball and cut it in half and then jammed it down to the top of my head, that is the size of it. It is the size of the top of a hammer. So when I was 4 or 5, somewhere around that age, before school, right before school, my brother was 2 or 3, and he had seen some sort of cartoon where, like, it could have been Roadrunner, it could have been Wile E. Coyote, it could have been, like, Bugs Bunny, it could have been Marvin the Martian, because all that I understand, now I'm 4 or 5 when this happens, so I don't have any memory of it. I have been told throughout the years the story by many different people, but not my parents. This is not a story I heard from my parents. My parents did not tell me this story. I did not know about this until I was probably 17 or 18. My mom's friend, Richard and Lisa, were actually the ones that told me this story. So apparently when I was 4 or 5, my brother had seen some sort of a cartoon where someone hit someone on the head with a hammer. And he then went and got a hammer and hit me on the head with it. And I was unconscious in a coma for about 5 days on the couch. Should my parents have gotten me medical attention? Absolutely. 100%. Without a fucking doubt. Did they? No. No, they did not. When they asked my brother why he did it, all he would say is bonk. 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 So it's something that he got from, like, a cartoon. That's the only thing people can figure. Bonk. And think about it. Like, back then, Wile E. Coyote was hitting Roadrunner with those big wooden mallet, looks like a judge's mallet kind of hammers. So it would make sense. And am I mad at my brother for hitting me in the head with a hammer at the age of 2 or 3? Absolutely not. It's not his fault. First of all, he should have never had access to the hammer. And second of all, he should have never been in a position where he could carry the hammer to me and hit me with it. My parents should have been supervising way better. So no, I don't blame my brother. I don't blame him one bit. I do blame my parents. And from what I understand, I was literally in a coma for 5 days, like almost probably died, had severe swelling. Like my eyes were so, like my whole face was black and bruised, and my eyes were so swollen shut, probably from like swelling on my brain. But my parents never took me to the doctor. They never even took me to the health department. So now I have a lot of things that I'm like, well, maybe that's why I can't smell. Maybe it's not because I grew up in a house full of cats and ammonia. Maybe it's a symptom of a traumatic brain injury that I suffered as a child. But again, I didn't find out about this until I was 16 or 17, and I was hanging out with my mom's friend, Richard and Lisa, as an adult without my parents. And I was saying, something about like, oh yeah, I've got this dip in my head. And they're like, oh yeah, that's where your brother hit you in the head with a hammer. I'm like, what? And they're like, oh yeah, that's a story time for you. So they told me about it, but I did not know about it. And the hardest part about this, and this will not make it into TikTok, the hardest part about this is right after this injury, right after I was in a coma for 5 days, there was, from what I understand, it was very hard to take care of me. Like, I had a lot of headaches. I slept a lot. I couldn't eat. Like, I was very, again, medical treatment was needed. but wasn't sought after. So I had a lot of symptoms that followed this. And because of it, my mom got really sick of having to take care of me. And so our neighbor, a grown man named Greg, was like, hey, I'll watch your little girl for you. Not I'll watch your kids for you. Just I'll watch your little girl for you. And my mom, for free, I'll watch your little girl for you for free. And my mom was just so sick of dealing with me being so fucking sick and high maintenance all the time that she literally was just like, sure, take her. I don't care. Now, at the time, my mom was going to school at Cecil's College to be a paralegal. And that was the deal, was that she left me with him while she went to college because my dad was working at Fine Friends Restaurant off of Merriman Avenue as a chef at night. They were working at night. Why she couldn't go to school during the day is beyond me. But Cecil's was a night college, so she needed a babysitter at night. And my mom's friend Mariette, who was a nurse, agreed to watch my brother, but couldn't watch me because of the level of care that I needed. Like and very shortly after this, Mariette stopped being friends with my mother. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact of how they should have sought medical treatment. And as a nurse, she recognized that. But she agreed to watch my brother, but not me. So my mom had to find a babysitter for me, so she found the next door neighbor, Greg. And I have zero memories of this whole time. I have triggers. I have certain things that triggered me for decades that I did not understand. I abhorred the color pink and purple. Hated the color pink and purple. I hated teddy bears. I hated ballerinas. Like that whole ballet slippers. I viscerally hated these things. And I never understood why. I just had triggers. Certain dresses, I would see other kids wearing certain dresses and I would just all of a sudden get nauseous for no reason. And none of these things made sense to me. And I fought for years and years and years to get my file from Department of Social Services. I finally did get my file from Social Services. And my file is about this thick. And it actually starts before I'm even born. So it is my whole fucking life. Department of Social Services was in my life my entire life. From even before I was born, they were investigating my mom and my dad in that situation. So I know. And the only reason I know this story, and I know what happened, is because it's in my file. I have no cognitive memories of this event. The only thing I know is I have triggers that now make sense to me, but at the time did not. And the only memory that I have of this night is me with another girl, a little bit older than me, 2 or 3 years older than me, and we're on her back porch, and we're playing patty cake. But for some reason, my hands are really sticky. That's the fucking cognitive memory that I have. I'm trying to play patty cake with her, but it's really hard because my hands are really sticky. And that's a memory I've had my whole life, never made sense. I got my file, and then it was like, oh, now it makes fucking sense. So this is what I found out in my file. The neighbor, whose name was Greg Liffin, apparently his wife had caught him inappropriately with their daughters and had basically said, if you ever touch them again, I will fucking kill you. And he believed her, so he then found new victims, me included, with about 6 other girls from the neighborhood. I was not the only one. And she came home early from work that night, the night that this incident happened. She came home early from work that night. And this is when we were living at this is when we were living at Kirkwood Apartments. Kirkwood is, it's hard to explain. It's kind of over near the old Craggy prison. kind of in, like, almost in Leicester, Leicester, depending on where you're from. I call it Leicester. It's almost there, but it's not. It's, if you go down River Road, you know, like down by the prison, there's that road that you go down and you hit that bump and your stomach goes boom, boom. It's right around there. And it used to be called Kirkwood Apartments. Kirkwood, it was projects, but it's not now. It's actually high-end condos, but it is literally the exact same. They didn't change anything except put like new paint, and it's high-end condos now, because I know, because my friend Kate was living there when I met her right before, and I was like hanging out with my friend Kate. My friend Kate was like, why don't you come over to my house? And I was like, absolutely. And we go over to her house, and I was like, girl, you have no fucking idea where you're living. And she's like, what are you talking about? I was like, girl, this used to be a fucking project. And I took her down to where I used to live, and I'm like, this is where all the bad shit in my life fucking happened, in that building right there. And it literally looked the exact same. They had not structurally changed anything at all. They just changed the name of it. So anyway, so tangent, sorry. So she had come home early, and the way that these apartments are set up is there are 3 levels. It's a split level, and there's 3 levels. You walk in the back door, and you go into the kitchen, and then there's a little, like, 5 steps, and then there's the living room with the front door, and then you go up from the living room level, which is basically just the living room, maybe a dining area, and then you go up, and then there's, depending on which size project you have, there's 1, 2, or 3 bedrooms at the top of the stairs. So she came up the stairs. Her daughters are sitting on the couch watching TV. She says to them, where's your daddy? And they say, he's upstairs with Shauna. And she knew. She fucking knew. So she went back downstairs into the kitchen and got a pair of scissors, came back upstairs, went upstairs into the bedroom, opened the door, did not say a fucking word, found him on top of me, and stabbed him in the neck with a pair of scissors. On top of me. Yeah. So that's why my hands were sticky, because they were covered in his blood. But I have no memory of it. Thank God. Thank God. I have no memory of what happened. I know that it happened to me because there's court documents, and there's, like, her testimony of what happened, and all of that was included in my file. And I know that I went to court, and I know that my parents got money. I know that there was a settlement. Like, I don't know how they got money, but they somehow got money out of that situation. And we used that money to move out of the projects. And the only reason I know that is because I would always hear my mom say, well, at least one good thing came out of that. And that's what she was referring to. Like, well, at least, you know, we had to go through all that. We didn't have to go through shit, by the way. I was the only one who was going through shit. She's off at Cecil's fucking college having a great time. But we had to go through all that shit so that we could now have this better life. And I remember that was when I was 5 or 6. And I remember going to court. I remember standing in front of the judge. I remember buying a new dress at Goodwill. No, I remember buying a new dress, but then taking it back and returning it the next day. And I remember going to Burger King off of Merriman Avenue. Right near where Dinner for the Earth Fair. No. What was it? It used to be called Dinner for the Earth, but everybody called it Dinner for the Rich because it was fucking expensive. But that was actually the first, like, hippie Whole Foods Earth Fair store. It was called Dinner for the Earth. And the hardest thing for me is knowing that none of that would have happened to me had I not gotten the brain injury, had I not been hit in the head with a hammer. Had that not happened, then none of those other things would have happened. So it's kind of like one happened because of the other. So there's the story. You asked for it. There it is.